Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Nicola Donnelly, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Colonel Kane Wright. This evening, we warmly welcome Mr. Alex McGowan, representing the Naval Association of Australia, and the Gallipoli Scholarship Delegation in attendance. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Piercedale Primary School from Piercedale, Victoria. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record, which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to able seaman James Cummings. James Cummings was born on the 20th of October 1920, the son of James and Sarah Cummings of the Sydney suburb of Manly. James enlisted in the Royal Australian Navy on his 18th birthday, the 20th of October 1938, signing on for a period of 12 years. He began training at HMAS Cerberus, the Navy's initial training base on Western Port Bay, southeast of Melbourne, but soon joined the crew of HMAS Sydney. After the declaration of war in September 1939, able seaman Cummings joined the crew of daring-class destroyer HMAS Vampire, but returned to Sydney after a year. In November 1941, Sydney escorted the troop ship Zealandia north to Sunda Strait, where she was to be relieved by the British cruiser HMS Durban for the last leg of Zealandia's passage to Singapore. Many of Sydney's crew viewed this work as being a milk run in comparison to the high tempo of operations in the Mediterranean, where Sydney had achieved successes in actions against Italian ships, most famously the Bartolomeo Colleoni. The voyage to Sunda Strait occurred without incident, and Sydney was returning south along the coast of Western Australia when, on the afternoon of the 19th of November, she sighted what appeared to be a merchant vessel, some 200 kilometres west of Shark Bay. The ship was in fact the German raider Cormoran, disguised as a Dutch merchant ship which had broadcast a false cry for help. Attempting to establish the identity of the vessel, Sydney drew almost a beam of Cormoran at very close range, keeping her main armament trained on the mysterious ship. When concealing the vessel's identity was no longer possible, Cormoran revealed her colours and opened fire. Sydney's guns returned fire, but her first full salvo passed over Cormoran without damage. Cormoran immediately scored hits on Sydney, with 2 salvos hitting her bridge and midship section. Sydney's 2 forward turrets were quickly put out of action, but her aft turret engaged with fast and accurate fire, hitting Cormoran in the funnel and engine room. Simultaneously, Cormoran engaged with torpedoes, striking Sydney under her damaged forward turrets. With her bow low in the water, Sydney turned towards Cormoran as though attempting to ram. The top of one of the forward turrets was blown off and flew overboard before the cruiser passed under Cormoran's stern on a southerly heading. Cormoran, now on fire in the engine room, with the resulting loss of propulsion, continued to engage Sydney until out of range. Sydney, crippled and on fire from the bridge, steamed slowly to the south. Both ships had been dealt mortal blows and sank during the evening. Survivors from the Cormoran were eventually rescued and interned. None of Sydney's complement of 42 officers and 603 ratings survived. James Cummings was 21 years old. With no grave but the sea, today his name appears on the Plymouth Navy Memorial in England, which commemorates more than 7,000 Commonwealth sailors of the First World War and almost 16,000 of the Second World War. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember able seaman James Cummings, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They have no grave but the cruel sea. No flowers lay at their head. A rusting hulk is their tombstone, a fast on the ocean's bed. They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.